Hola, mi amigos. It is Saturday, June 11th, 2011. This is my third video, and it will be about minimum wage laws. But before I get into my main topic, I want to talk a little bit about things that have happened since my last video, which was about 2 weeks ago. First being that the debt ceiling was voted not to be raised by the House of Representatives. The vote was 318 to 97, so it's kind of surprising that many Republicans and Democrats agreed on anything. But they did agree not to raise the debt ceiling. The problem is they have until August 2nd to change their minds, and they will. And my prediction is all those votes will be swayed. They'll use scare tactics, whatever they gotta do, fear mongering. That, I admit that things are gonna be bad, but they're gonna be worse if we keep putting it off. And there's no benefit to putting it off. It's just gonna be worse. So I cannot explain that enough times. But anyway, they're going to change their minds. And the annoying thing is that the Republicans will still claim victory even though they'll cave in. So they're going to say, oh, we attached some future spending cuts or something, whatever rhetoric and bullshit they want to say. But they did not accomplish anything if they raised the debt ceiling. And I think they will. I mean, like I said, it's a lot of votes to sway, and I don't think it's even a bold prediction. I think those politicians will be bought and sold, and we'll know very shortly if I'm right. Even if you look at history, of the debt ceiling, it actually started in 1917 to fund World War I, and at that time it was $11.5 billion. And it stayed about there until World War II. So between 1941 and 1945, the debt ceiling was raised every year to fund that war. But at least at that time, after the war, they lowered the debt ceiling. But now, if you look at it, since 1962, we have never lowered the debt ceiling. We have actually increased it 74 consecutive times, and this will be 75, I believe. I mean, what is the point of having a debt ceiling if we are going to increase it every time we approach it? I don't get it, and it's really frustrating. I need to move on from that topic because, well, my prediction's out there. We'll know shortly if I'm right or not. And these politicians are really starting to piss me off, man. So, I'll talk a little bit about the quantitative easing. I also mentioned in my previous two videos that it would end in the end of the third quarter, which is not true. It ends at the beginning of the third quarter, so June 30th. My prediction on silver, I would never make that prediction right now because I didn't realize that the quantitative easing is scheduled to end this month. So had I known that, I would actually predict that silver would go down. The prediction may have been right because it did hit $39. June 1st, it was at like $39. So if I'm right, it was based on flawed information anyway. I get no credit for that. I actually think it'll go down. Right now it's in the upper 30s. I think it'll go down to lower 30s. Because the problem is that people are actually buying into what the Fed's saying. The Fed is still standing firm that they're going to stop printing money June 30th. And the good thing about that is we'll know if they're telling the truth or not because we get to see the balance sheets. So we'll see. And, people are really buying into it. I just watched CNBC, and this economic expert was telling the host that he would give him 20-to-1 odds and to make a bet with him because he thinks that the Fed is definitely going to stop printing on June 30th. So 20-to-1 odds. In order to make that bet, you would have to give that less than a 5% chance probability that they will keep printing money. I mean, I would take that any day. I would think the odds would be reversed. I mean, I guess I'm in the vast minority on this, but those odds should be reversed. There's less than a 5% chance that the Fed actually will stop printing money. It seems like there needs to be riots in the streets before these guys grasp the fiscal discipline aspect of Austrian economics. So the crisis has to be staring them in the face, and right now it's not. So there will be no discipline. They'll just keep printing money, and that's my prediction on that. We get to see that. We'll see that soon enough. And since that took up half my video, I want to talk about minimum wage laws. So I guess I'm just gonna basically read bullet points so I can actually finish this video within 10 minutes and stay on topic, because otherwise this thing's going to run way over. My position is I believe that minimum wage laws should be abolished completely, not lowered. just abolished. And I realize that it will not be unpopular with a lot of people listening to this that may not be as familiar with the law or what damage it does, because I admit that myself, I thought the minimum wage law would it's a good thing, because it supports people, it supports the worker, it makes sure that the employers don't exploit employees by paying them much less wages. The truth is, I now realize that it is one of the more counterproductive economic laws in our country. I mean, some people think that, like I said, even me at first, that companies will lower wages upon abolishing the minimum wage law. But if you look at it objectively, a majority of people are paid more than a minimum wage law. So if it were true that employers could exploit employees like that at every turn, then everyone would be getting paid the minimum wage law. I mean, never more. I mean, the fact is there's competition for workers between employers. So let's say you're running a business and you try to cut everyone's wages below what they're worth. Those employees aren't going to stick around. They have no reason to. So all the minimum wage does is create unemployment, if you look at it. It ensures unskilled workers remain unskilled because it's too expensive to hire them. If a business determines a job is worth $5 an hour to their company, and minimum wage law is $7.25 an hour, then no business person is going to create that job. I mean, the whole object of a business is to create profit, not to make people feel good. So those jobs will go out of existence. If you have no skill sets and you can only provide a company with $5 an hour worth of value, then how are you going to get hired? You won't. You'll just be unemployed. So even if you look at internships, you can legally pay somebody no money at all to do work, and that's perfectly legal. But the minute you say, you know what, I'm going to pay you $4 an hour instead of nothing, then that becomes illegal. Does that make sense to you? I mean, this is why the government shouldn't determine what businesses can or should pay their employees. It's an agreement between employer and employee. If you feel the money isn't right for a job, don't take the job. It's plain and simple. Like I said, all it's doing is depriving unskilled workers, all these teenagers looking for work, the ability to acquire skills and one day be able to support themselves and a family. Over 50% of African American teenagers are unemployed, thanks in large part to this idiotic law. If a kid's willing to take a job for $5 an hour, and an employer is willing to pay it, why does the government have to make that employment illegal? It's a lot better to be employed at $5 an hour than be unemployed. And you may think it's crappy for somebody to have to work for $5 an hour, but it's not like they're going to make $5 an hour for the rest of their lives. They are gaining the skills to ensure that they make more. I mean, if you look at where our auto mechanics came from, there was a kid at the gas station that used to pump your gas, that used to check your tire pressure, clean your windshields, all that stuff. And in his downtime, he worked with mechanics, and he got the skills needed to one day become a mechanic. And that was a whole new crop of auto mechanics that derived from one of those gas station attendants. But the minimum wage law actually completely wiped that job out. I mean, gas stations couldn't afford to pay this kid minimum wage. They had to get rid of him. He wasn't given enough value to the gas stations to hire him anymore. So they just all disappeared because of the minimum wage. But it's a prime example of where how the benefits of not having minimum wage are on display. And also, if you look at it, the strongest pushers for the minimum wage law were unions, because it priced unskilled workers out of the market and it forced companies to hire union workers instead of unskilled workers. So the minimum wage laws were written deliberately to create unemployment. I am running out of time, so I'm actually going to try to edit and make this all one video. Alright, so obviously this isn't going to be the most seamless editing you've ever seen. So I had an example that I wanted to give you guys of the damage that this law does on a smaller scale. since our country is very large and industrious. But if we do it on a smaller scale, we can see what kind of devastation it does to our unemployment in this country. We actually enforced our minimum wage laws on American Samoa, on that island. So we, just by enforcing that one law, we crushed the whole economy of Samoa. What happened was their two largest employers, Chicken of the Sea and Starkist, went out of business from minimum wage law. And a country that had no real unemployment before, all of a sudden had 40% unemployment. And not only did they have 40% unemployment, but they also got massive inflation. What happened was that they had ships or boats that would go out to America to to distribute their tuna products, and those ships would come back with a bunch of products for the Samoans to buy. But once those companies went out of business, those ships, boats never left the island, so they never got those products, and so that created massive inflation. All of a sudden there was a high demand and a very low supply. Shipping goods to the island cost a fortune. So not only did they not have jobs, but the cost of goods skyrocketed. So that's a smaller scale. You can see where a huge portion of our unemployment comes from. Because we devastated the whole island of American Samoa just with one law. So I thought it was important to add that on. So if you want, you can debate any of the points I made about quantitative easing, the debt ceiling, minimum wage laws. Feel free. I realize I might not have won people over with minimum wage laws because it is stuck in our brain that the minimum wage law is a good thing, and it sounds like a good thing, but it's really not. So feel free to debate and let me know what you think, if you agree or not. All right, thanks for watching, guys.